House rules. We've all got 'em, and here are some of mine. Doomed Wizard here. So, house rules, am I right? They're almost a staple at everyone's table, and I'm willing to bet the inspiration for many game systems. So, since I've been working on my own game lately, I thought I'd share some of mine. As much as I'd like to say these rules are system neutral, they're more geared towards fantasy, but with a few tweaks you can probably use them for just about any system. So without further ado, in no particular order, here are a couple of your friend the Doomed Wizard's house rules. Let's start at the end. Death.
Where's that bellows crab? He probably owes you money, huh? Well, I'll ask him.
His daddy can't talk.
Look who knows so much, huh? Well, it just so happens that your friend here is only mostly dead. There's a big difference between mostly dead and all dead. Please open his mouth.
In the early days of Dungeons & Dragons, as well as in the OSR in general, 0 hit points typically means death. No death saves, no -10s, no get-out-of-jail-free card. It was the end of the line. During the 90s, when my gamers and I pretty much played 2nd edition AD&D, we used the -10 house rule. As in, at -10 hit points, your character was dead. Monsters and NPCs, however, were still dead at 0. Mostly because, as a DM, I didn't feel like dealing with the whole idea while throwing an army of goblins at my players. Truthfully, I've never been a big fan of the whole 0 hit points means you're dead idea. Even though I like squishy characters as much as the next GM, but -10 for PCs and 0 for monsters seems too arbitrary and off balance in retrospect. And imagine giving death saves to every monster your players run up against. I don't know if 5e has a monster death save or not, or if it's an optional rule, but it would be madness. Speaking of madness, while working on my game Under a Gibbous Moon, I hit on what I feel is a happy medium, and it's now my house rule for OSR games like Basic Fantasy. If a character's constitution bonus affects their hit points, why not use it as the negative equivalent? I look at a character's constitution as their physical makeup anyway, so at 0 hit points a character is still dead, but a character with, say, a +3 constitution bonus can still be healed and otherwise resurrected until they lose -3 hit points, at which point they're pretty much hamburger. The difference between, say, -3 for a character and 0 for a monster or NPC doesn't make combat so cumbersome to work out, while dice and arrows are flying everywhere. And if you throw in the whole bleeding out idea, it creates a real sense of urgency in combat. After all, if a character loses 1 hit point per round after they go down, with only a few rounds being the difference between mostly dead and dead, counting down the 2 or 3 as opposed to 10 is just that much more terrifying. Another one of my favorites, using wisdom bonus for ranged attack. This one might be controversial amongst my fellow grognards. If wisdom is the ability to use one's knowledge and experience to make good decisions and judgment, why not use a character's wisdom bonus as an accuracy modifier for ranged attacks? I think I mentioned in a previous video how I let my players increase their character's ability scores as they advance in levels. I'm just not a fan of static ability scores. Each level, I award my players 3 points to put in their abilities, but no more than 1 point at a time per ability, and of course capping at 18. This way, players feel like their characters are getting more proficient as they make their way through adventures. And, in the case of wisdom, this reinforces the idea of experience leading to judgment and decision making. If you've ever shot a bow, thrown an axe, or played darts, you know practice makes perfect. Even shooting stationary targets takes more than just drawing back and firing. You have to allow for wind, distance, and a number of other factors, let alone a goblin horde coming at you left and right.
It's all in the reflexes.
And finally, while not technically a house rule in some games, difficulty challenges.
Do you see that boulder over there? I want you to lift it.
That boulder is too large. I could lift a smaller one.
I first learned about difficulty challenges and target numbers when I started playing Deadlands about 10 years ago. If you're not familiar with the system, in Deadlands characters have attributes which are basically stats in other systems. Each attribute has a number of dice of a specific type attached to it. The GM, or in this case, the Marshal, assigns a target number to a task. The player rolls to make or beat the number, and that's basically a difficulty challenge in a nutshell. Deadlands also has exploding dice, which makes the game both dangerous and fun, but that's for a different video maybe. Since then, I've noticed a lot of games use difficulty challenges in some form or another. I use the standard 5e chart, where players roll d20, adding the applicable character stat, and then trying to make or beat it. But regardless of the game system you play, there's probably a variant of the difficulty challenge. Difficulty challenges save a lot of time, too. Why waste time whiling away through books looking for a rule when you can just assign it a number and off you go? The trick is remembering that number later. That's why jotting them down is a good idea. But if your players call you out for changing the number, it only means they're paying attention. And that's really all we want, right? In my one-page RPG, Operation Snake Eyes, I use a similar system. But as it's a 2d6 system, my difficulty challenges tend to run between 3 to 12. Don't look for it on DriveThruRPG just yet. I'm about 3 beta test sessions away from putting it up there. And I'll be sure to let everyone know when it's available.
Get to the chopper!
Well, there you go, folks. 3 of my most used house rules. This was going to be a longer video, but as some of you know, I was having audio problems lately, and I think I finally got it all straightened out. I'm still working on using my new equipment. I have plenty of other house rules though, so I'll probably make another video later on in the future. But those are just my house rules. What are some of yours? Feel free to put them in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to do all the YouTube things. Like, subscribe, comment, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss a single video. Thanks for listening.